You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello, Tammy. How are you doing? Yeah, the weather's not so bad over here either. I'm very thankful that we can get out and enjoy the outdoors and get some fresh air. Well, yeah, those things happen once in a while. But when it does get rainy and windy, you kind of think about the dry season when there's a lot of fires and you can get the hurricanes and the tornadoes and earthquakes. So it just goes with the territory. Yeah, that's one of the big political issues, the global warming. But the fact is, it's happening, and we just have to adapt to it rather than sitting around complaining. Yeah, I've been talking to a few people about some of the prison officials who are abusing their authority, and we need to get that information out. You can share it with folks. Folks can share it with you. And then you can get it out to the media, get it out to your friends and family. The only way to stop is to keep talking about it, keep it in the news. And topics like that kind of disappear. They'll have their heyday, and then they'll go. I know in the federal prison in Dublin, California, was finally exposed. Some of those prison officials actually got arrested and put on trial. And there were a few that were convicted. And that's because these women were being abused, and they didn't give up. They kept trying to get that information out. And even one of the local women, she was talking to me in the comments of a story that I did on her in my YouTube. And she's going to continue the fight. And I'm proud of that. I'm glad that people are getting out and doing stuff like that, especially when it's traumatic, because the experiences that they go through is just not right. And even some of the officials are talking about, if a person goes to prison and they're mistreated, they don't get the training and support that they need, what happens when they get out? And I know most of my work is done once the person walks out the prison walls. But it begins when they're in the prison. And, when you have people that aren't being watched, aren't being monitored, and the risk of them losing their job or being admonished is slim, that's like a basis for abusing the authority, because they feel they have nothing to lose. It's like the people that are in prison with a life sentence. Yeah, I know. And I'm very concerned about the way facilities are taking advantage of their resources. Our number one goal in all prisons should be to help the person readjust to society. Something went wrong and they fell off the path.
You have 60 seconds
and wound
remaining.
up in prison, and prison should help them figure out what happened and work for ways for them to prevent it. And of course, that requires a lot more work and a lot more money, and in many cases a lot more staff. So it's not a big priority for these people, unfortunately. And that's good. If you ask questions of the other inmates that's in
You
there,
have 30 seconds remaining.
and if you work with them, you could get something positive. But I'm afraid some of the younger folks get in there and they just get under the wing of people that are just career criminals, and then they learn these trades and get out and use those. Okay, good. I'm happy that you're at least working in the right direction, and that's rare. Well, thanks for the call, and you take care of yourself over there. If you need anything, you know how to reach out and
Thank
talk
you
to
for
us.
using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, and welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and in this episode, I recently heard some stories about some of the prison officials, and I like hearing updates on what's going on inside the prison, especially the Women's Correction Center, the Washington Correction Center for Women, because in that facility you have biological males in charge of the safety and security of biological females. And human nature, we're born to procreate, and so of course biological males will be attracted to biological females so that we can get some children and keep our species alive. So to fight with something that's natural, it doesn't happen as much in the men's prison when you have men guarding men, or in the women's prison when you have women guarding women. But these days, people can pretty much choose their gender, and they can go wherever they want, especially in the state of Washington. And you have to change the way you do things. You can't keep things in the traditional way. And if it was a woman's prison and all they had in there was biological women, and males and females were the guards in there, you could work it out so that people could be safe, and then family members would feel safe, and the women who are locked in the prison would feel safe. And that's the ultimate goal. We want people to feel safe visiting the prison, living in the prison, working in the prison. And I just want to announce that we have to make some changes now. The world isn't the same as it was 50 years ago or 60 years ago. We've evolved. And the definition of a woman's prison, the definition of a men's prison, is different than it was 100 years ago. And in Dublin, California, there was a lot of males overseeing these females, and they just did atrocious things. It's very easy to look that stuff up on the internet, and the stories are just shocking. And to think that these people go in there and they're treated like they're some kind of servant, and then they're expected to come out into society. And if you look at the worst case scenario, you could be creating somebody who was on the edge of rehabilitation suddenly gets knocked back and comes out worse off than going in there. And that's my big concern. It's really hard for society to take somebody in that was treated so badly in prison. We could watch movies, we can read books, we can hear stories about people who were growing up and were mentally abused, and just a tragic end to it. We had cases where people go into the prison and make requests for something that they feel is safe and get denied. Instead of usually these people, they'll do a long investigation. It's just like I applied to marry my fiance, and there's this long process that they go through. In the state, I'm qualified, but within this prison, I don't know why they're delaying it, but they have these little things that they supposedly go through. And a person who feels unsafe or doesn't feel that they're being treated properly, there should be a good investigation going on that. I've been investigated dozens of times, and I'm pretty familiar with the process. So it surprises me that when I hear a story of a prison official getting a person to go into a closet and then fondling that person or making requests, and that person feels very uncomfortable, and then nobody listens to them. These things are going to happen. It's very believable. If a person is running for Congress and a woman says, 15 years ago I was raped by this person, let's say, and then we take that seriously, why is it that if a person who's locked away in a prison says that I was sexually assaulted, or I was spoken to in a demeaning way, these things should be taken seriously too? Because if we keep saying no, they're just trying to get attention, or they didn't get what they wanted and they're retaliating, then this type of behavior is going to continue, and it is going on in there. And we've got inmates that are attacking other inmates, and we've got prison officials that are being attacked by inmates. Because I'm sure there's cases too, at a men's prison where there's a female official in there that's being harassed by a male or something. And in a prison where you have cameras and you have witnesses and you have open spaces, it's very easy to find these things. And that's what we need to concentrate on. We need to find it, we need to expose it, we need to stop it. And it's something that I don't want to just stop and forget about. I would like it to continue. I'd like us to keep putting this stuff out there for the public to see, and keep tabs on what goes on inside the prison. And so mainly I'm just encouraging people that when something like that happens, report it. Get it out there. Let's band together to expose some of the atrocities that's going on in there. Now, I know I recently saw a report where they had pickleball that was being at the men's prison. And the men enjoyed working on that because they could go in there and they could sit in their cell for 4 years and they get out and nothing changes. But they learn a little bit about teamwork. They get physical exercise. They get a chance to plan strategy, and they get a chance to feel that they're contributing in some way. So it has a lot of positive effect just playing pickleball. And you were talking to some of the inmates who were really enjoying this program that they had going on. And some of the officials were saying, we're seeing more positive results on this rather than them coming in here, learning bad things, continuing bad things, and then getting out and harming somebody or endangering the community. That's a simple thing to do. And it surprises people that just simply talking to folks, listening to folks, can make a difference. I mean, I met my fiancée in there, and she said she's very happy to have somebody out on the outside that cares about her, because she felt that nobody cared and nobody was listening to her. And for me to give that simple gift to her made a big difference. And the fact that she's responding so well and that we can get along comfortably, and we feel that we can share personal ideas and thoughts and not feel restrained. I feel very comfortable talking to her. And I really enjoy when she talks to me, because she's a person that's just kind of distanced herself from society, and she doesn't want to discuss too much. But when she discusses something that happened in her childhood, or what's going on there in the prison, or something that she wants to do in her life, I feel good about that. And when the prison wants to stop that, block visiting, block messaging, block phone calls, I'm not sure how that's helping anybody, because I've seen a world of difference. I enjoy communicating with her. And every block that's put on there, it doesn't do any good. People think that by blocking folks from doing stuff, you're supposed to improve something or some kind of harsh punishment. The thing that's bad is the stuff that's going on there that they don't talk about. And that's those little secret rendezvous inside of a closet or the chapel. Hopefully they'll put more cameras and stuff up and they'll get more people in there, because we shouldn't use that excuse, don't have the staff or don't have the resources. There's a reason for that if it actually does happen, and that's because they're being lazy, they're not doing it. And so they have nobody to blame but themselves. We don't need new prisons, we just need to reduce the population that's in the prisons, and we need to get a better, or should we say a lower recidivism rate. When people go to prison, they shouldn't be going back. A large part of people that get out of prison don't go back. And a large part of that is because they're making that effort. They really don't want to go back to the place. And they're taking advantage of any resources they have. But for those that just feel insecure or don't have enough self-confidence to really improve their life, we need to weed them out. They do it in other countries, and the most successful prisons are the ones where the prison officials actually want to succeed. And I think prison should be rewarded for the number of people that get out and don't come back or are successful. We shouldn't be dropping money in the prisons to just do bad jobs like what happened in Dublin, California. Well, thanks for tuning in. I hope you will have a conversation, especially if you know somebody that's in prison, about the conditions that go on and what we can do as a society to help reduce the prison population. It really starts on the outside, especially with the folks that are just feeling bad. Let's listen to them. And especially those that are suffering from low self-esteem, or suicidal, or impoverished. There are certain signs like that, and we can find that by communicating. Just keep an open line of communication constantly. Well, go out and have yourself a wonderful day and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.